Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for this important forum as we prepare for the November elections. My name is Terry Hopkins. I have the pleasure of serving as the President and CEO of the Grants Pass and Josephine County Chamber of Commerce. This forum is a testament to the importance of civic engagement and the responsibility we all share in shaping the future of our community. Voting is not just a right, but a critical way for each of us to have a voice in the policies and decisions that affect our businesses, our economy, and our families. The choices we make at the ballot box have a lasting impact on the prosperity of our community and Oregon as a whole. As the Chamber of Commerce, we stand as an advocate for our local businesses. Our goal is to ensure that the needs of the businesses, owners, employees, and entrepreneurs are heard by those in positions of leadership. That's why tonight is so important. We're bringing together the candidates running for Oregon Senate District 2 so that you, the voters, can better understand their values, their strategies, and how they plan to support the growth of business and economic development in our district. Our local businesses are the heartbeat of this community, providing jobs, supporting families, and contributing to the quality of the life we all enjoy. Tonight, you will hear directly from the candidates about how they intend to support the heartbeat and advocate for the policies that will help our businesses thrive. Thank you again for being here and for your commitment to the future of Grants Pass and Oregon as a whole. Let's begin. And today by candidate Tracy Thompson, candidate for Oregon Senate District Number 2. Tracy, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Terry. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
You bet. So we're going to begin this with a little self-introduction. I'm going to give you 2 minutes just to talk to folks at home about what you represent. I've got a series of questions that we've compiled from some of our membership and business community. And then at the end, I'm going to turn it back over to you for an open 2 minutes of closing. And again, just tell folks why you're the best bet.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, with that, let's thank you again for being here. And let you begin with a little bit of self-introduction.
Sure. So, as you said, my name is Tracy Thompson, and I'm running for Oregon's 2nd Senate District. I've been here in Grants Pass for about 5 years now, and I moved here from New Zealand after I came back. My mother and sister had moved here because she has family in the Grants Pass area. So I'm fairly new to the area, but I am familiar with it. The reason I'm running is because I see a lot of endemic problems in our community, but not a lot of action on the legislative side by our representatives in addressing them. So when I saw the Supreme Court case come down and I saw what was happening there, but the fact that our current senator voted against critical infrastructure funding to support new housing development, I couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. So I raised my hand and decided to jump into the race. And quite honestly, I've spent 40 years in business, international business, and so I know how to negotiate contracts. I know how to work with people from all walks of life and actually find that middle ground so that we can move things forward instead of just complaining about the problems that we have. So my 5 primary planks of my platform are affordable housing, healthcare, because we're on track to have single-payer healthcare in Oregon by 2029, education, because where I come from, if you only graduate 73% of your kids from high school, Houston, we have a problem. Economic development, which is, I know we're going to talk about that here. And then finally, climate issues, including natural resource management. These are some pretty big, heavy lifts, and I realize that some of these problems may seem insurmountable, but my whole career has been built around solving problems. With my career in medical devices, I have spent the entire 40 years of my career solving critical problems that people with medical conditions experience. And I think that it's time now to bring that here and make some effective changes in Josephine County.
Great. And you're right, we are going to dive into just a few of those key components of your campaign. But before we do, if we can touch on some of the measures that we are facing and have faced. Let's dive into an upcoming ballot measure, Measure 118. It's garnered quite a bit of concern from our local business community. The measure would impose a 3% tax on many businesses in Oregon, with the promise of divvying up the money raised among Oregon's more than 4 million residents, no matter their age. At this point, if you know, are you in support or opposition of Measure 118, and why?
Well, on the surface of it, to be honest, I haven't really drilled down into it. But based upon what you've described to me and what I've heard about it, it doesn't sound like a smart move. I mean, just to tax businesses. Now, in principle, I'm not opposed to taxing, big businesses, because that's how our system, that's how our economy works, our government, our infrastructure works. But to tax businesses for 3%, only give it back to the people, doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. It seems to add a lot of bureaucracy and additional paperwork and overhead to existing businesses. And so I do not believe at first blush that I would be in support of that.
Great, thank you. And let's move, instead of the one in current, maybe one that we have seen and talked about for a while, but let's move to previously passed measure that's faced some scrutiny and even seen some revisions lately. But Oregon voters passed Measure 110 back in 2020, which decriminalized the possession of hard drugs. But then earlier this year, we saw some fixes, and House Bill 4002 made changes to that bill which recriminalized drug possession in the state. Do you feel that those revisions that were made in the House bill are sufficient? And how would you engage further on conversations about Measure 110?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that drug addiction is actually a medical condition, and that's been validated by the Mayo Clinic. So I think if we treat it as a lifestyle issue, it creates one set of challenges. But if we treat it as a medical problem, an actual medical condition, that changes it dramatically, for me at least. I wasn't real happy that we automatically went back and recriminalized the use of drugs. I'm all for stopping the pipeline, but to criminalize individual people, to me, I have a problem with that, because whereas the money could be going to help them get better and come back into our society and be productive, now we're going to be spending that money and putting them in jail, and all that does is reinforce the criminalization. So I wasn't real happy with it, although I do admit the fact that the initial proposal was flawed in its both design and its implementation. So it's not a great answer for a difficult problem.
It is a difficult problem.
Yes.
So thank you for that. And then let's move away just for a minute, from existing measures and talk about the opportunity that you would have in representing us here, and start with just a little bit of that small business support. As you well know, the Chamber's mission is to support and promote local commerce through communication, advocacy, and partnerships.
Right.
And we really believe that small businesses are the backbone of our local economy. And just want to know and let the people hear, what policies would you support or introduce that help small businesses thrive, especially in rural communities like Grants Pass?
Sure. So to be clear, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life.
Yeah.
I've worked with small companies. I've started several companies in my life. And small business is the lifeblood of not only this economy, the local economy, but small business is the heart and soul of American economy. I mean, small businesses generate more jobs than the Ford Motor Companies, the GEs, and all the big guys. It's the small company, it's the mom and pop shops, it's the 5 employees, the 10 employees, the 15 employees. That's where the real economic activity needs to happen. In terms of what I want to do here for this community, I want to support entrepreneurialism at the high school level, and make sure that we have a couple options would be to offer tax incentives for businesses that are just starting up, give them some tax credits during their early years when they need that to reinvest that profit back into the business. I think we have to do that. We've got things like the Small Business Development Center here, which are great resources for people to use. I don't know if there's a SCORE project here or retired executives help mentors small business people, but those sorts of things I think are really essential. I get upset when I drive down 6th Avenue and I see all the closed up buildings that are either just empty for no reason or with no advertising for lessees, or buildings that have for lease signs in them. In my town in New Zealand, that was a real problem in the downtown, just kept shuttering up more and more buildings. So I want to avoid that here.
All right, we like that. Let's move over. Kind of a subsidiary there of that, but and you touched on it just a little bit. But let's dive a little bit into the workforce development piece of it all. In recent business surveys, and we host these regularly, many of our local businesses pointed that as number one. Being able to find skilled workers,
Right.
and just talk a little bit about what initiatives you could push to improve workforce development and ensure businesses have access to talent. And I think you said that's one of your key components.
It is, and in fact, it was a question I had for you before we came here. So, what are the biggest challenges for businesses? Because one of my jobs as a representative is to find out what the difficulties and challenges constituents are facing, and that would mean small business owners. Workforce development is a problem. Part of that is reflected in our poor high school graduation rates. Quite honestly, I'm very engaged in artificial intelligence. I'm here to tell you and everyone else that artificial intelligence is here. It is going to change things dramatically. Having said that, I think we need to get back to like 2-track systems in high school, where you've got a vocational track and an academic track like they do in Germany. A lot of kids are cut out for university, and if you graduate here in Grants Pass with such a high school degree, you need to be ready to address the companies and industries that are here. But I would also like to make sure that when high school students graduate, they've had an opportunity to understand business principles, numeracy, how to start products, how to market products, so that they can basically hit the ground running if they're not inclined to go to work for someone else or go on to university. They've got the tools and the skills that they can put them to work right here in our community.
Great. And let's actually dive into one of those industries specifically, the tourism as it relates to the local economy. Obviously, as you know, tourism is a major economic driver here in Southern Oregon as we move away from a timber industry.
Right.
What do you have to bring to enhance tourism sector and support local businesses that depend on that?
Yeah, I think that tourism is going to be more important in our economy, our local economy. We've got wineries around here. I think we've got lots of scenic beauty, but not everyone is necessarily a fisherman or a hunter. So I think we need to do more things to attract other folks, like maybe make a food alley here, maybe a food hub downtown, maybe even make a pedestrian area where we can have more shops out in the streets. One thing I'm really keen to pursue is passenger railway service between Ashland and Eugene. Now, clearly that's a long-term project, but if we can make it easier for people to come, stay here, for a weekend or a couple nights or something, I think that will help facilitate traffic coming through the area. And then it's incumbent upon us to make sure that this is an attractive, welcoming place that people want to come and visit.
Great, I like that. Let's on that topic dive in just a little bit and follow up by on that supporting tourism. I want to ask about current Oregon statutes that require monies collected from lodging tax dollars to be reinvested in tourism promotion and tourism-related facilities. We've seen over the years a couple proposals to change those current statutes and take money away from reinvesting in tourism and allow those lodging tax dollars to be used for other purposes or even general fund. Mm-hmm. Would you support legislation that makes changes to the existing investments of lodging tax dollars back into tourism?
Can I give you one word answer?
Okay.
No.
Okay.
For the simple reason, if you're taking money from tourism for that purpose, then let's not do the same thing that they did to Social Security, where they threw it to the general fund and then say, oh, now we can't support Social Security. If those dollars are earmarked for tourism, then by God, let's make sure we use them for tourism to make this area attractive for people to come here. It only makes sense.
Great. Fun one here. Legislative collaboration. We get to talk to a lot of different people running for a great position to represent our beautiful community. But how would you plan to collaborate with other lawmakers across party lines to pass legislation that supports the growth of businesses and economic development in rural Oregon?
Sure. And this is an area, like I said, I spent 40 years doing international business. And one of the things I learned is, for example, when you go to Japan and someone says, yes, yes, it doesn't mean they're agreeing with you. It just means that I've heard what you've said. So you have to learn those sort of nuances in order to accomplish the goal you want. But to the point of working across the aisle, I talk to everyone. It's just part of my nature to talk to people. And I realize that there's more that connects us more often than divides us. And this is probably one area where I really see a huge differentiation between myself and my opponent, is that he has come out and stated he will not negotiate, he will not compromise. And in politics, that's the only way things get done. We have to be willing to say what's important to us versus what's just an emotional response to, say, a cultural issue we don't like. So compromise, negotiation, and finding that happy medium is critical for effective legislation.
Great. Let's have a little bit of fun. Let's dream big, okay? If you could get one bill and you knew that it was only one and it could be anything you wanted in the upcoming legislative session, what would that be?
That's a tough one. That's a real tough one. Of my 5 planks, I would say that probably the one that probably has the most chance of impacting directly our community is education. With a 73% graduation rate, that's, in my world, that's abysmal. And we need to do better, not only for our community, but for our youth. I mean, our youth are our future. This area is so dependent upon Social Security and Medicare, for our economic base. We need to give the young people the opportunity to stay here, not just graduate from high school, go away to university, and come back when they retire. We see that a lot. So to me, changing the education model, fixing the Department of Education, not eliminated like my opposition wants to do. But I think there's a lot we can do to improve educational standards and give our kids hope for a world that's changing faster than any of us can imagine.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Thompson, thank you so much. Again, when I introduced in the beginning, that civic obligation of making informed votes, encouraging our members and the members of our community to get out and be educated. This really is a great opportunity for both us at the Chamber, our members, and our community. So if I may, let me just give you a couple more minutes to talk to folks at home about why they should be checking that box.
I appreciate that, Terry. Yeah. So, as I said, my name is Tracy Thompson, and I'm actually registered as a Democrat. And a lot of people say I will never vote for a Democrat. But I think more important than that, I don't personally like labels. And so rather than call myself a Republican or a Democrat, I call myself a pragmatist. I look at the problems, I look at the solutions, and then find one that works for the most people. In fact, Thomas Paine, one of the founding fathers, said the role of government is to do the most good for the most people. And that's a principle I strongly believe in. So despite you may not like a lot of my social issues, a lot of my issues around the economy, around building a future for our kids are very centrist. And so whether or not you agree with the political views of Democrats, I think that we have to get beyond those sorts of labels and look at what's really best for our community. In the next 4 years, my commitment is to make sure that we implement positive changes such as health care for all, such as a better educational system, addressing homeless issues, protecting our natural resources while not impacting our economy, and most importantly, because this really affects everything else, is strong economic development. I know how to do that. I have done it, and so now I want to make it happen here in Josephine County in District 2.
And again, Mr. Thompson, our time here is invaluable, but maybe folks at home want to follow up, learn a little bit more about your campaign, ask a question or two. How can they find you, learn more, and reach out?
I appreciate that because I always forget to mention the website. It's Tracy4Liberty.com. That's Tracy4Liberty.com. I hope I'll see you there.
Mr. Thompson, it's
Thanks
been
a lot,
pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.